Dungeons and Dragons. I know that a lot of you kids and adults and people of different ages out there are playing this game now. I'm glad that you've gotten rid of all the Satan talk around it, because that was a real weird period. Anyway, without further ado, I want to introduce my special guest. Here we go. I'm going to turn it over to them. Ba-boom! Special guests, introduce yourselves.
Greetings and salutations. It's I, your dapper dungeon master, Jarret Sullivan.
Hey guys, my name is Adam Slemon. I play Cristobal de la Cruz on the Dungeon Run every Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Super neat. What's up, boys?
How you doing, God?
Oh, I'm tired.
It's pretty odd to be in the presence of God, I'm not going to lie.
It's humbling. Mm-hmm. It's humbling. Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't make that big of a deal of it. I've been around you your whole lives.
We just want to say thank you, by the way, for taking back Dungeons and Dragons from Satan. Like he had no ownership of that.
No,
well,
he
also...
He really didn't care. I mean, I didn't mind so much, but it's nice to not just have that be the sole focus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Satan was not real.
Really?
I always suspected. Well,
anyway, all right. These two, who are my special guests today, are two people that I think are pretty big deals in the dungeon community, the D&D. And if I say they're big deals, I mean, you find someone, well, Taylor Swift is bigger than me.
We're going to get that God bump.
Yeah, right? I was hoping that he would hashtag us. You know, God on social media is a pretty big deal, you guys.
How about this? They're saying there's reverb, too. Man, this is the whole... We got a new setup today.
It's the IG
Oh,
droid.
you know what?
You know...
How's that?
It's because Jarrett's about to sing, and he loves that reverb and that echo. It really makes him Ariana Grande out. See? There you go. It's nice. It's nice.
All right. I think that should do it. Hot diggity dog. Yeah.
Trying to incorporate a musical element into Dungeons and Dragons is like something we've made small attempts at. It is very difficult.
We actually have a bard in our... Well, she's not a bard. She's a cleric in our campaign who all of her spells are songs.
That's beautiful.
So she is forced to improvise songs on the spot. She's great at it. She is a lot of fun. Jessica Parsons, she's great. If you guys haven't followed her on all the social medias, you should, because she's a lot of fun.
That's genius.
Oh, that's cool. Well, you know what? Speaking of this lady that you're talking about, your cleric, we do have some questions coming in, but I want to hear from each of you about your campaign. So, Adam, you are in the Dungeon Run.
Yes,
which is on Twitch.tv.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I play Cristobal de la Cruz. Mm-hmm. He is a blade singer wizard. And
Nice.
Did you say blade singer?
Yes, except the fun part about Cristobal, I decided that he doesn't actually sing, because we already have the cleric who sings in our group. He dances. So the way that he utilizes his ability is he's a fop from the courts. So he does very stereotypical court-styled partner dances when he's trying to activate all of his various abilities through Blade Singer, and it's a lot of fun.
Now, is that something that you also do in your personal life? Victorian courtship-style dancing?
Yes, it's actually very big here in Los Angeles. Yes, it's what you do on a Saturday night. Is you put on your powdered wig, and you go Victorian-style dancing. You know, you think it's a city of excess. It's really a city of aristocracy and refinement.
Well, I don't know if you're joking. There really is a big Victorian dancing community in Los Angeles. That's not a joke, everybody. And if you have a passion for Victorian-style dancing, move to LA.
Yes.
You can
That's
go.
what I've always heard.
Yeah, you can go to a dance every week. We're gonna keep on your train because I want to show people some of your. Let's take a look at your character.
Oh, please.
I'm gonna pull. Come on.
Oh, technology.
This is
God.
a real. This is a real problem. They should not have let me.
We always talk about people over a certain age and how they can't deal with technology, and God is.
I'm millions of years
so
old.
So
Yeah.
it's like compounded.
You know, I'll
Exponentially.
tell you. Let's pause. There we go. One of the big problems, and I'm gonna have to do this a really old-fashioned way.
He's gonna smite someone.
I'm controlling the computer through my energy, which exists, all over the world, and so to like refine it into this keyboard and mouse. While I'm doing this, you know what I'm not doing is taking care of other people's lives and needs. So everyone that is in the other side of the world, I'm sorry, I've got to move my mouse and make sure we can hear this. Let's see. This is Crystal Ball.
You got to activate the audio god in the lower right.
Come now.
Of course I do.
How do I start this over?
I think hit refresh on the page.
It'll do it all by itself.
Well, we don't want to have that happen, do we? Let's just do it.
I don't understand the question. Bear, can you ever have too many handkerchiefs? I'm going to take out my handkerchief and I'm going to tie it to my my cane.
You have a spare handkerchief?
Of course I do. I don't understand the question. Bear, can you ever have too many handkerchiefs? I'm going to take out my handkerchief.
The answer is no. No, you can never have too many.
I agree.
In fairness, and by the way, I know I'm going to get trolled for this. I know it's a pocket square and not a handkerchief. However, we don't have a handkerchief level budget at the dungeon run. I've asked for a new line item on the budget to go into handkerchiefs, and they just, I had to buy my own ascot, you guys. That's
What?
Yes, I know.
Well, I'll say, this is a big thing that's in modern Dungeons and Dragons. You guys got some production value on that set.
No, thank
It
you
looks
very
really
much.
good.
I saw some plugged-in phones and some medieval-looking backdrops.
Yeah. So we produce with Two Kings Entertainment, and they are fantastic. They have a set that we got some great audio there. We got some great camera work, and everyone's a lot of fun to work with over there.
Yeah. production value.
Wait, are they forcing you to say that?
Not at all. Not at all. Stop stabbing me in the side.
Production value is always that, like live play D&D shows. Sometimes it's just really charming when it's in someone's basement and it's like good enough audio and it's totally fine because like something about the game is so compelling. But oftentimes because there's so much in that space now, it's like, well, if I can't hear it, if I can't really see it,
well,
I'm a little bit more turned off. So you gotta really compete.
Well, it's like the game has changed since Critical Role has become Critical Role. I mean, like that's.
Critical Role.
Yeah,
There's t-shirts right there.
there it is. Their bar is just the bar's been raised.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
They
so-
got, projected backdrop. It's insane.
Yeah, but understandable. Like they're a lot of fun to watch.
They got money.
Yeah. Oh,
got a
money.
budget.
What's money like?
I don't know.
Fun fact about Cristobal de la Cruz, the whole reason I created the character is if you follow Critical Role on any of their social media platforms, they actually have Matt Mercer was wearing this on Tuesday night's game.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, never
Roll
before.
closet.
Never before have Dungeons and Dragons people been, fashion trend
Yeah,
starters.
like put to a lens of what clothes they're wearing. It's like, I am not wearing a tie today, which is a rarity for me on camera. But it's like, I don't have anybody being like, Jarrett's bow tie has skulls and crossbones on one side and stripes on the other. Like, no one.
Jarrett's wearing a Louis Vuitton shirt and
Yeah, like that's not happening. You don't know that he is not wearing pants.
Well, Jarrett, speaking of your production value in your space, you are so Adam's on the dungeon run.
Yeah.
You helped start the program that you're on, which is Fables of Refuge.
Fables of Refuge.
And you wrote the book, right?
Essentially, it's a campaign setting that I created. And in my own world with all my own peoples and lore, and it's a lot.
Oh.
I think God understands.
No, tell me what it's like to create an entire universe.
Downplay that.
God understands, but the
No, please human-splain to me the creation process.
But what's been more interesting is kind of like creating the world as we play through it. So it's like, okay, where are they going now? Like I have like vague ideas of what's happening elsewhere, and then they want to go there. So it's like, okay, well now I need to really like flesh that out and like how long is it going to take them and what does that mean for the game? So it's like, okay, well then there's ruins here, or there's this thing happening here, or there's be another town right here, or there's be a city here. And I already had like vague understanding of the like who's the prince here and who's in charge here. And
God, have you ever experienced that? I mean, because if you look at like the Amazon, it's very clear that when you designed that, it was like, don't go in there. But then, of course, human beings were like, I'm going to go in there. And you're like, oh no, I got to put like an ancient civilization ruins there. And
You know what's? Thank you so much. Not many people ask me about the Amazon. I'm serious. One of my favorite projects. The Amazon is sort of like a good beta testing factory for new and interesting ways to kill things.
Sure.
I made a lot of animals there. I get these ideas just sort of like you do, where it's like, I wonder what would happen if I made an insect that was the size of your face.
Yeah. Yep.
And then kind of see how that plays on.
Sure.
No, not Amazon.com. That's well, Amazon.com may be killing more people than the Amazon is.
Yeah, forget the giant flies.
Yeah.
Just walk 20 miles in one of their warehouses.
When I look at Amazon, I also think, hey, don't go in there.
Yeah, don't go
Yeah.
in there. Stay out of there.
100%. But, did I ever intend people to go into the Amazon? I mean, it's one of those things where it's like if you survived going in there, you earned it.
That's fair.
So I didn't necessarily put in, the civilizations and the gold. I made the people, and the people wander. So I'll say my creation process versus your creation process, there's a lot more steering on your side. I make the thing, and then I kind of watch and go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, let's see where that goes. And then I'll make another thing, and then, so on and so forth. But I don't operate the game.
Yeah, I mean, Dungeon Mastery has some elements of that too, because you create like an encounter, a dungeon or whatever for your players, and then how are they going to go about it? And you have kind of an idea, but then they often surprise you.
Yeah, my favorite thing is when you see a dungeon master be like, I had a dungeon master once that was, you're traveling down the road, and about 50 feet off to the right of the road is a pile of human skulls, at least 1 story tall. And we're like, we're not going over there. We're going to keep going down the road. He's like, you're not going to explore that? No, you're telling me there's a pile of human skulls 1 story tall?
Oh,
nope, going to keep
man.
going. And you see them just tear up the encounter. Just-
Yeah. It's like, I really thought that it'd be like, oh, well, there's a thing. Let's go look at it. No,
Nope.
they don't want to?
Nope.
Damn it.
Well, I'll tell you, when you said that, it immediately makes me think of the logistics of making a pile of skulls that tall.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that got to clean those skulls.
Yep.
I mean, first of all, you need a number of bodies to make them.
Right.
You got to have people that clean them so that they, go together. And then stacking things that are misshapen objects that have round sides to them. I mean, that's quite a feat of architecture.
Yep.
And so this group, yes, they probably kill a lot of people. They probably eat them too. But I would go visit to just look and go, wow, the ingenuity in this tribe to be able to
you'd be a good
stack
player.
something.
Yeah.
God, you'd be a good player. You're like, no, let's see what the Dungeon Master made for us. Let's go over there.
I feel like God would be the ultimate. You would be the ultimate player in a DM camp, in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Like, yeah, you have all the experience of inhabiting a world and creating that world. I feel like you'd be great at it.
Maybe you're kind of
Well,
novel.
I've got a big question. If I were to play in one of your games, I'd have to abide by the rules of the game, and not. I wouldn't be able to be me in that space.
It's true. We'd have to put some constraints and limits on you, God. Otherwise,
Well, because spoiler alert, I can't. I'm always going to exist.
Yeah.
So my threshold of worry is pretty small. Anyway, let's dive into some of our questions, everybody.
Oh yeah.
So Jarrett, I'm gonna direct this at you, and Adam, you can throw in your experience. Where do you start when you're building a campaign?
Oh, man. Well, first, it's what kind of game do you want to run? So you kind of have to think of it through a flavor first. So is it
Flavor.
Yeah, is it high fantasy? Is it low fantasy? Is it sci-fi?
Oh wait
Is
a
it-
second. Wait, what is high fantasy and low
I'm
fantasy?
teaching God.
Well,
It's very
I'm
exciting.
around for all these things, but you people
The
make up
details.
terms all the time.
High fantasy has lots of magic and dragons and more fantastical things kind of all over the place. Where low fantasy, it's much more grounded, kind of like Game of Thrones is low fantasy. Like there are dragons, there is some magic,
But only a few dragons.
But only a few.
Sure.
And so it's like, that's low fantasy.
The amount of magic.
Yeah.
All right, go on.
Or sci-fi or something of that nature.
Or steampunk. That seems to be a
Ooh,
thing.
Western flavored.
Very
like, you know,
big.
it's kind of what you want to play and what your players want to play. And then you... I started, I think, the wrong way. I went from like a whole cloth kind of perspective and determined the planet, how many continents are on it, the moon.
Yeah, those are fun. How
and,
many moons?
It currently has one, but I have plans to change that.
Are you gonna make more moons in game?
I have an idea of how there could be more moons.
That's exciting.
And because I'm like, why? Because I changed my like deep lore idea halfway through because no one playing the game or watching the game knows any of the deep lore. So I was like,
Sure.
I can just change that.
Yeah, that's
But
fine.
that's just for you.
Yeah, it's just for me. But there's
Hey.
going to be more moons maybe in the future.
I actually really like the idea of a new moon.
It is
just
a broken moon.
Yeah, but it just shows up, and all of a sudden, all the tides on the planet start
Oh,
changing.
everyone's going to freak out. Like the
That's
stars are
amazing.
going to be completely different. It's gonna be
I'll tell you, I have a lot of creations that exist just on Earth that you all haven't seen yet. You know, and so those are just for me.
Oh, if you were gonna have us, by the way, God, I've always wanted to ask you this. If we were gonna do a real life Dungeons and Dragons campaign, we would have to explore a different part of the world and like try and find the mysteries and the riddles. Where would you
Yeah.
have us go?
Oh, you got to go in the trench.
The trench? Oh, the Mariana Trench.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm nervous about megalodons
You
existing.
got to
down
keep
there.
going deeper.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, there's something like that. I wouldn't call it a
tentacle
megalodon.
voids.
We got a question in here from Ig 81888. Can a campaign literally have too much detail? What do you think,
I
Jared?
mean, no, because your players, if they're invested, are
There's
going to...
never too much. Speak to George R.R. Martin, who made eons and eons of history which exists before the actual book takes place.
Anything that helps with the verisimilitude of the campaign for your players is good. So they can ask all these questions and like about details, and you have them for them that can help ground them into the game.
So you got continents, you
Depending
got a
on your players.
moon.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but I would say if you're going to start, like have a kind of general understanding of your cosmology and those kind of things. But I think if you're going to start your own campaign, start with the starter town, who lives in that town, and then what's going on. Start small and build out instead of doing like, here's the planet. And then I'm like, well, what's happening? Oh.
You said don't do what you did. Start with just one village.
Yeah, start with the village, start with the classic, it's the Shire, it's the two rivers, it's all that.
The Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah, and just let them loose on it. And then you make inciting incident and you kick off the campaign. But
Totally.
I think if you're gonna make a setting, you need an understanding of like what your gods are and what the people are like. And like my campaign setting, it's Refuge is the planet, so Fables of Refuge, and then Refuge is like a place for everyone to be. So it's kind of like
That's nice.
Is that
it's
like
nice.
aliens or just that like they're very inclusive amongst all creatures?
Right, they're very inclusive amongst all creatures, but technically they're aliens because they all came there, right? So, but there's human and dragonborn and gnomes, monks, orcs. There's no, and this is D&D has changed this officially now, but there's no like quote unquote evil like race or species. Like it used to be that orcs are always evil.
Yeah.
And
Dark elves are evil.
Dark
No,
elves are
you
evil,
can't say
and I'm
evil
that's,
anymore.
That's terrible.
They're
if someone wants to be evil,
misunderstood.
they can be evil, but that's from the trauma of their life and how they are putting it out in the world. So in my campaign setting, like you can be any species essentially, as long as you have a good reason to be it or they already exist. And
Wait, we got a
aren't
question.
aligned. Like you don't have to have an alignment.
Around that. So you made some different species or monsters. Do you have a favorite out of the classifications? Or creatures?
Because two of my players are tieflings. Which
okay.
They're like
You're saying these words
I know,
like
I know,
everyone
it's-
knows like
they're-
a tiefling
it's
is.
a individual that has a demonic or a infernal legacy. So it's a devil legacy where they're like offspring of a devil or like they come into existence. So since two of my players are tieflings, I've played around with the lore of tieflings for my setting, and I created kind of sub variant on them called the Children of Lost Souls. So it's like 100 years ago, all these tieflings went into the desert, and then like half of them didn't come back, and they just like disappeared. No one knows what really happened. And then suddenly, like 50 years ago, tiefling babies just started appearing places. And these are the Children of Lost Souls. So it kind of just depends on where they ended up. No one knows why they go where they are, and
Fun.
some of them end up in one of my players. He's he ended up in like a royal court essentially. So he's very much high class.
He's worked his way up through the system.
He was born, quote unquote.
He was born into it.
Versus I have another tiefling who her parents were tieflings, and there's more generations of tieflings versus just some kind of like hellspawn idea.
Oh my God! All right, I love this. Adam, have you designed a campaign before?
Oh yeah, I've run several campaigns. I'm a player in the current one, but I tend to start from a personal place. Like whenever I can create be it a character or a world, I like to imagine the characters that inhabit it first and then build it out from there. For instance, I did a campaign not too long ago that was set in I wanted to play around with the Norse accent. So,
So you start with the accent.
I do. I usually do. It's like, we're Vikings and we want to, pillage and plunder and things like that. So I would go and I'm like, I'm going to build a Viking community. And what does that Viking community look like? And how do their beliefs surround it? So, for instance, I'm sitting there going, well, they're a warrior culture. Okay, if they're a warrior culture, they're constantly in combat. So that means every night the undead rise and attack this village. And every night these warriors defend it.
Oh.
And as they defend it, they die, and they have these chroniclers who take down their names. So these scribes are on the battlefield besides these mighty warriors, like writing down their accomplishments and their whatever. And then they have the biggest library in the world is in this Norse town, which people do not expect. But because being remembered and being recorded for your mighty deeds is so important, they're like some of the most literate and philosophical people on the planet. So my players showed up and they're like, oh, these guys are going to be a bunch of brutes who do nothing but... And they were like, have you read the latest chronicle of Gregor the Great? And you're like, oh, no, I don't know how to read. You don't know how to read? As he like has this huge axe that he swings around.
I love it.
Yeah, I love this process. I can tell you all start with... you make one thing and then you're like, we need scribes. And, since there's scribes, there's a library.
Yeah.
Everything kind of...
That happens a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, I'll tell you, in the regular creation process, it's very similar to that, but it's a hell of a lot slower. I got to deal with evolution. I got to...
Yeah.
It's like
generational change.
I poke people and I'm like, come on. Make that wheel.
I mean, in fairness...
And then it takes them a long time to realize...
It's way easier to make than a wheel.
Yeah, you did a lot in 7 days. Like, in 6 days, really.
It was not
Oh,
that-
come on. It was pretty impressive.
But I didn't do it in 7 days.
You did. You didn't.
That's
you created...
That's just bananas.
What? You didn't?
No.
I hate all these fables and we don't know the truth. How long did it take you?
Millennia.
Millennia?
I mean,
that checks out, though.
you've all discovered carbon dating. You know how long these... Well, I mean, they called it days. They didn't want the story to be so long. The real story was, I made a frog. And then I'm like, all right, well, what's this frog going to eat? He's going to eat bugs. Oh, I got to make a bug. And then there's different kinds of bugs. And now he's mosquitoes. And I'm like, I can transfer diseases by having this thing suck the blood and then be eaten by this thing. And, I just kind of piggyback from there. But it takes a long time.
Sure.
I'll tell you, a lot of the stuff that I made would just, I make something and then I'm like, well, that thing's got to eat something. And then I'd make another thing. And then that eats something.
See, I appreciate that your evolutionary process is built solely off of hunger. Like it's just
Well, here's a nifty trick that you guys don't necessarily have to deal with in your D&D worlds. If I make something, it's got to continue to exist,
Sure,
which means somehow it's got to stay alive, and then
it's not just a figment of our imagination.
Right.
No. You
Yeah.
get to exclude all of the things that also exist in their space. not as the main characters.
Yeah, I don't even have my players keep track of like rations or anything.
Yeah, we have an
Wow.
archer. We have an
Because
archer
why?
we have an archer who just fires as many arrows as she wants.
Only magical arrows have a number. a
Well,
limit,
that's
yeah.
super fun.
That's how I am.
Before I get into some of my questions, we got some from the chat here.
Yeah.
What D&D setting, in parentheses, Forgotten Realms, Dragon, etc., influenced your game? Did
Oh,
you have
man.
one?
A bunch. So yeah, the way we're playing in the modern world of it is very much in that kind of Faerun, Forgotten Realms style. But because a lot of settings are post-apocalyptic, so it's like you're going into dungeons and finding things from the ancient
Sure.
world. That kind of requires that there was this world that came before that is no longer around, right? So my ancient world is really heavily influenced by Eberron, which is this like super high magic technology setting where there's like trains and airships and magic laser guns, but everything's magic, but it's like super like colorful fantasy. So my ancient world that's destroyed, that the players find pieces of and things, is all based on that. And then just lots of like 70s, like
70s.
1970s style, like environmentalist fantasy fiction. Because I read a ton of that as a kid in the 90s, because that's what was at the library. And it's like looking back at it, you're like, oh yeah, this is as like a heavily influenced by like, we're destroying the world, and if we continue to do so, a bomb will turn into a god, or turn into a devil, and a computer will turn into a god, and they'll remake the world. The
Sure.
crews out there know what's up. So that's not exactly, but like those kind of ideas influenced a lot of my like creation on the like mythology and things.
What about you, Adam? Do you use these other things as inspiration?
Well, my dungeon masters, who are Ron Ogden and Jarret Kajak, they've created a lot of their world, I think, based off of Forgotten Realms. But, they're really playing a lot with forces of nature versus forces of, they're calling it cosmos, which is kind of like the technology. And, like right now we're existing in a place where all of the animals, or not all, but a majority of the animals have an animus form. So, for instance, there are bears who are humanoid in their ability to talk and their ability to rationalize, and they're very sentient.
I love that.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. And then we got so like these Ursaka are these like 7-foot tall polar bears who have their own agenda, and then we're walking around like trying to understand them and who they are. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I really like it.
I'll tell you right now, if I made cognitive speaking bears, you guys wouldn't last very long.
Nope. I don't think we would. Not at all. No. I mean, when you think about it, we're pretty helpless. Like all we have is our brain. Yeah. Otherwise, no natural
Once
weapons.
we don't have sharp sticks, it's over.
Yeah, game over, man. Without fire, we are done.
Oh, we got some cheers for you in here, Adam. Some of your friends tuning in to watch.
Ooh, it's a fail waffle. Hey.
Yeah, Adam, is it difficult to perform a family-friendly show when the dice rolls on going your way? Does that mean that you got to stop yourself from swearing?
So 99% of the time is not a problem. But for instance, in this last episode, I definitely dropped the F-bomb when I was not planning on doing it because I rolled so terribly, and my character actually died for the second time in a week. Yeah, second time. Now, I'm a wizard, so that's not impossible to
glass
happen.
cannon.
But, so I'm just like, oh, beep, and I felt terrible because we do have a bunch of people under the age of like 12 who watch our show, and I felt really bad about that.
Our audience is mainly adults, and we don't censor ourselves on my.
And there is a lot of, for instance, you watch some D&D streams, and like it's a lot like improv. When I used to do improv on a regular basis, it's very, and I'm not commenting on your stream for this, but it is very easy to go blue. Like it's very easy to like, swear this and sex joke that. So it's kind of fun and challenging to do clean humor and do a clean performance, and I really like it.
Yeah, I guess I should qualify. Like we have our table safety rules that everybody applies, so we don't have like it's not really heavily sexually charged.
Right, and I didn't want to.
But
always go
language
into
we're
the
not
sex
too
stuff.
worried about. Yeah, language we're not too worried about.
Right.
I've only had one player who got it on at the table with some NPCs, and we just did a little like fade to black. And she was just very proud of herself because one of the other players, he was trying to pick up these women, and then she did it. And it was mainly a dig on him, but she was also very proud of herself.
You didn't describe it in vivid detail.
No.
Yeah.
I did have her roll a like athletics check to see
Yeah.
how well things went, but that's basically the joke of it.
That's actually really funny. They have like negatives to their
Yeah,
athletics,
like,
and
you
it's
performed
like,
poorly.
I tried my best.
No. You know, I will say, D&D used to be kind of like, oh, only geeks play D&D, but D&D inspires a lot of sex now.
Yeah,
you
that's
think- really?
yeah.
I think it does.
Yeah.
I mean, God would know.
God, you sound a little perturbed by how much
no,
sex
not
is.
perturbed. I'll tell you, I've been watching a lot of sex since the beginning of time.
Don't blame you.
There's definitely more costumes and story involved now.
Yeah. Never
You
underestimate the power of fantasy.
I think
So-
it's interesting that they create a narrative within the narrative of their relationship because the people having sex have a narrative going on. They're like, let's dive deeper. Let's add another layer onto
But
this.
what about your father?
Exactly.
Oh, God.
And it gets weird that people start involving, things from their childhood, characters that they once remember fondly. I'll put lightly. But anyway, moving beyond all the wonderful D&D inspired escapades that are happening. All right. So you two have also both played characters, obviously. Where do you start? I mean, I know, Adam, you started with an accent before.
Yep, that's 90% of how I got into playing Dungeons and Dragons because I really enjoy playing a different person, like taking on a different persona. And I feel like the easiest way to separate Adam from the character is to, if I'm on stage, it's physical. So like I don't walk the way I walk, I don't move the way I move, but I can't do that in D&D because it's just my voice. So I tend to alter my voice, and I find that helps to create the character. And I usually go with accents because I like doing accents, and it helps me slip into a different culture, a different mindset.
Now, do you find yourself when you're making a character like they take on their own persona that are a different part of you? When they die, you go through a grieving process.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah. Some campaigns, people are really brutal and people die all the time. My campaigns rarely are that way because I like people to like have time with their characters.
Sure.
But when they do die, it can be huge. And then like, because I have players that are like, if my player dies and everyone tries to resurrect them, don't.
Right.
And I'm
sure.
like, okay. And then the other players don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, they're just not going to come back.
Yeah.
And it's like that death is permanent versus being resurrected.
There are D&D funerals for characters.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've attended quite a few.
We actually the first time I died in this game, I met my god. And
Whoa!
yeah.
And what was it like?
It was very intimidating. The god that I follow's name is Lumbra, and they're the god of progress. So it was, yeah. So
That's the god of progress. I
yeah,
like
so it's
that.
there was a lot of like animatronic and like buildings being built and then improved upon, so they were knocked down immediately, and it was intense because my god came to me and was like, "What are you doing to affect progress?" And I'm sitting there going, I change my shirt every day, so there's that. I'm always up on the latest fashions, and he's like, "You must do better." I'm like, "Oh, okay, sorry."
I did use an experience with one of my characters, gods, to get the player to like behave a little better at the table, which was very fun. They were new, so they were still learning everything, but it was like, I gotta do something. Like everyone's like, he's not playing the game everyone else is playing. It's basically his god be like, look, bucko,
Exactly.
you gotta straighten this out.
Like, I'm trying my best, to do the best that I can with what I've been given, which is fun because, especially from your character's background, if you don't have a deep, like, religious, experience prior to, like, Cristobal, for instance, knows of religion. He knows all about the gods, but he comes from a very academic background. So he's like, what he can read, he can explain away. But when all of a sudden, the gods are in his face, and it stops being like right now, it stops being just an idea and becomes like a moment where he has to reassess everything about himself because all the basis of which he's built himself has just been stripped away. So...
I love that you both have included gods that shame you immediately.
That's what
My current gods are a bit more hands off. But
No, it's okay. Yeah, God's fast to pass judgment. I'll tell you, if I ever spend any time with somebody after they die, I don't have to really say anything. All I just have to do is say, hey, let's watch the tape.
Do they?
Go back to the video
Clip
tape.
show.
And then most of the time they do all the
just
talking.
Yeah, just not gonna
Dude,
no.
people
Do they
get-
perceive you as this like disembodied golden mask, or is it individual?
No, this is just for television.
Okay.
I'm just the energy moving throughout the universe, so they're just kind of hearing me, or I take on the form or the sound of something that is familiar to them.
Oh, so like
You know.
contact.
No, only contact.
Exactly like contact. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I don't have to shame or judge anybody. They usually, end up just becoming a mess of a person that's like, oh, well, when I was doing that, oh, that doesn't look good.
No.
I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Well, when you're confronted with your own
Yeah.
mortality and the decisions you make in the moment, and you realize
Yikes.
it's why that's why everyone sits up late at night and be like, why did I make that decision in second grade to do that thing?
Well, I'll tell you something that really blows people's minds when I'm doing this with them. People have this effect now, like drones, for example. You don't experience what you do because you're just pressing a button and looking at a screen. But if I really want to teach somebody a lesson, I put them into space where the consequence happened.
Wow.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
That's lesson learned. You just kind of complete the balance of the universe of saying, hey, remember when you did that thing? Well, here was the other side of it.
Oh,
And
that's
there's no shame.
Nope.
I say
Just gotta
I
feel
say
it.
nothing.
Just feel it out.
I just operate the remote control and ask them if they want to see anything else, and it's usually no. Anyway, all right. So D&D's booming right now. What got you two into it when you were youngins growing up?
Oh man, I feel like because we're all pretty much the same age. So
Are we?
we knew about. I might look a little older.
Don't
Like,
listen. Don't
back
worry
with
about
the
your
old
age in
satanic
this room.
panic that God talked about, that he's glad that it's away from. The satanic panic still exists because I grew up in the Bible Belt.
Okay.
So like even into the early '90s, the satanic panic. You bring up D&D, and people be like, "Oh, that's the thing devil worshippers do." You're like, "No, it's
You definitely shouldn't talk
It's
about
just a-
imaginary
just a
demons.
game.
I mean, you should talk about, well, not these imaginary demons, but
Yeah.
your imaginary demons.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
but,
what makes it weird.
So my friends and I, because we went to church 3 times a week, we were like, we're not. My buddy created his own D&D game that wasn't Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
But basically was Dungeons and Dragons because we wouldn't play D&D because of the devil stuff.
Oh.
Because we were oppressed and the internet was still pretty new, so we didn't really know how to find resources. And he used a lot of like the Hero Quest board game rules.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
game.
Great game. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had Talisman as well, so we kind of like did that. And then the like Star Wars, all the D20 explosion stuff came out. So like Star Wars D20 came out, and because we're huge Star Wars fans, we played that. So that was our first like official actual game that we played, and we played Star Wars D20, and then that rolled into 3rd edition 3.5 Pathfinder.
Nice.
And what
Yeah.
and what was it for you, Jarrett, that made you say, I'm sticking with this D&D thing. It's going to be a part of my life till the day I die.
It's just so fun, and especially like in adult life, like it's a great reason to hang out with your friends, and then you also get to stretch your creative muscles. And I usually played like very chaotic, like violent characters, which is not who I am in real life. So it's nice to get out like that power fantasy of things. Like I played a lot of fighters, just because it's like, okay, I'm gonna get in there and fight them because I'm not gonna fight people in real life. But
Because there's real consequences.
yeah, exactly. I would choose peace. But in a game, no one's getting hurt.
I choose peace.
I choose peace. And there's tons of other games now too. There's all sorts of things, but D&D, it's become so accessible. 5e is super easy to pick up. They streamlined all the rules, so it's like not so crunchy. Some people love that crunch.
Oh yeah.
Some people love that crunch.
What's crunch?
Crunch is where you're like really getting into the minutia of all the rules and how they interact and everything. Some people really, really love that. That's cool. If you want to play that way, that's cool.
That
But
for
I'd
you
rather-
humans is physics.
The amount of times I have my players ask for an insight check, that's used all the time.
Yeah.
What's going on with this? I don't know. Make an insight check.
Yeah.
It's like, did they look threatening? Make an insight check. Like I'm like, great. The rules are now so simplified. And I'm like, this one, great. Versus, okay, spot and listen checks, everybody. I'm like, why are these two separate things? Like, this doesn't make any sense. But there's other great games too, like Wander Home is really beautiful, and the fan-made Star Wars 5e that's online is incredible, and there's
Vampire, Werewolf, Collude, all that stuff is fantastic.
Yeah. What got you into it, Adam?
Initially I got into it because it was an opportunity to explore different sides of character work and even self-introspection. But at the end, like, especially in Los Angeles, it's a great community of people. Like, aside from, like, people being good people, which, of course, is a thing.
Some
of them are good people. Most of the people I try and associate with are. When you get to play with the same group of people over and over again, you get to grow with them. Like, your characters get to grow with them. You start learning things about these people, and you start forming bonds that go far beyond, like, I played sports most of my life, and I was a martial artist, and like, there's been a sense of community that occurred because of that, because you're on the same team as someone. And once you leave that court, though, that shared goal dissipates.
Yeah.
If you're no longer trying to win the game, right? But instead, if you're in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, which goes on week after week after week, for years possibly, you're always working towards the same goal as your compatriots. You start learning about them beyond the character, and you'll make lifelong friends that way.
Yeah, you meet up with people that you played with that you haven't seen in years, and then you talk about, remember that time when we fought this thing, and it's not our characters, it is when we fought it.
Yeah.
And you act like it's, in your mind, it's real.
Well, I'll tell you something. The universe is what it is. I wish I could help you people out. There's just not enough universe for me to make each of you the main characters of the story. That's a big thing I think is good for D&D, is that you get to get together, and the 5 or 6 or 8 of you are the most important people in the world.
Here in Los Angeles, I feel like everyone thinks they're the most important.
No, but it's a big deal, because I'm going to be honest, you guys are specks of dust in an infinite nothing.
Yeah.
And you're not important.
No, it's fair.
But to you are. And then in these D&D campaigns, you really get to go on an adventure. And I'm being honest with you when I say I wish I could actually give you all adventures, because I see the growth and the connection and the community that happens when that comes together. And holy cow, would the world be a better place if each of you could take turns being the hero of the story for a limited period of time.
Well, and isn't it interesting that 9 times out of 10, not every D&D campaign is this way, we're seeking to better the world in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, I'd love that.
Right? It's just like there is usually
there's a problem.
I would love if people work together to better the world.
Yeah, even if it's an imaginary world, it's like you're out there to conquer a problem that's affecting everyone. Like in our current campaign, there is a pestilence that is like destroying the earth and corrupting creatures, and we're going out there. Even some of us don't necessarily want to be the hero in this sense, but if we don't do something about it, the world's screwed.
Yeah, it's fallen on
Wow.
you.
Yeah,
You take an action. Now, do you want to know how the campaign plays out in the real world?
Please.
Climate change.
Yeah.
You've been told about it by a bunch.
For a long time.
You've got active groups that are like, no, I don't think so.
I love that idea, because that would just basically be like, okay, the Oracle comes out and says, the world is getting warmer. And we're all like, yeah, Oracle, whatever. And
Whatever. Oracle, you're a liar. This is the deep state that doesn't want us to make more gas
small
anymore.
changes in their lives that will compound over time and solve the problem. But we want to fight a monster.
Burn that Oracle! Burn them! They're a
Well,
witch!
I'll tell you one thing, which isn't true about your D&D campaigns that I can't really give you, is you all think that you would fare a lot better in survival situations.
Oh, yeah.
Let me put it this way. When people were surviving with swordplay and pestilence, there weren't a lot of D&D campaigns.
No, they had other things
They
to
were.
do.
They didn't think it was so fun to have to kill a beast that was savaging their village.
Well, after which they poop in a bucket. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not.
and then they pooped in the bucket and they were tired. And their
Not
crop
understanding
didn't
what
come
earthquake
through.
is a real problem.
Yeah, those were real things. But, you get to go, ooh, A dragon? The 5 of us could take this, no problem.
Yeah, I had some like demon type creatures attacking a town, and we were rolling dice to see how many of the just random bystanders were getting killed every round. And it's like, that was really dark. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I guess it was pretty dark for our campaign. Usually it's just like, hey, everybody's fine now.
Well, that's what I love.
Isn't that a nice thing that you could do?
Yeah.
I love that moment in D&D campaigns now because like things like dragons have been normalized.
Yeah.
So in the campaign, like our DM will be like, a 6-story tall dragon emerges from the forest, and someone's like, I charge it with my sword. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You would never do that. You would run as fast as you could, or you die instantly of a heart attack.
I put my players up. They had to either release like this teenage kid that had fallen into this ancient magic trap place. They could either let him out, and in doing so, release an ancient white dragon, or not, and keep the white dragon locked away. And they decided, they're like, no, we like this kid. And I was like, all right. And so now it's like they're only now, like 2 years later, about to like start to deal with what's going on with this white dragon they released that's savaging the north.
I will say that like an orphan is my favorite like instigating instrument in a D&D campaign. Like they're walking down the street and they're like, oh sir, the local mine has collapsed. Can you please come help us? And like if anyone's like, no, screw you, orphan, like whoa, slow your roll. Like that's an orphan. That is a Dickensian orphan. Go help that child.
Because my players also had met his dad, so they're like, we're gonna have to go tell his dad that we locked him away forever in this ancient prison thing. I love that. And it was like they were just like, nah, we're not gonna. We'll just release the dragon. We're not gonna let Ketis die. We're gonna save him and tell his dad that he's fine.
It's really funny because you don't do much to help orphans in real life.
No, we do very little.
Isn't that hilarious?
Oh yeah.
Listen, if we were all running D&D campaigns, there'd be less kids in the foster system. I mean, that's true.
Yeah,
maybe.
You're not wrong, God.
I also find that like for one of my players, it's very easy to bait him with a like desperate young woman who's asking for help.
Sure.
He'll always go for it. And I'm like, yes.
Well, that's very real.
I feel like my DMs love to like offer that bait and constantly switch it. Like it's like, oh look, there's a helpless young woman. She's not helpless.
Right. Yeah.
Or like, oh, there's an orphan. Oh, that's not an
we'll
orphan.
trap 'em.
Yeah, exactly. There's always that
always fun.
move.
Hi,
Yeah.
Oh no, the dog's broke in.
God's dogs are adorable.
Those dogs are great.
Yeah, everyone should have a puppy. I declare that as a big part of the things.
I agree. Shop, adopt, don't shop.
Yep.
All right, so do you guys have any favorite battles that you've been in? Epic moments that you've had to fight your way out of?
Jarrett, after you.
I mean, that's been, combat encounter design is its own
using the technical lingo.
is its own skill, right? And it's hard. But usually your players have fun regardless. But I did on our like big season finale for last year, where one of the players was basically coming up against like zombified version of her mom, essentially.
Wow,
The
you
woman
guys
who
are just
raised her.
doing therapy. That's great.
on the ocean. And so we did a whole Pirates of the Caribbean thing. Like a storm had been growing, like a maelstrom had been growing out in the ocean. So then and all these pirate ships were being raised up. So they had all this pirating,
amazing
ship to ship encounters, and then fighting this undead pirate queen who's acting as an avatar of the main bad guys at the moment. And then she had levels of paladin, so she could cast tidal wave on them and do all sorts of stuff while and they also all had NPCs from the ship because the ship was crewed. So I had each player controlling a certain group of NPCs that were doing different things, and how those groups were one by one just getting crushed. And there was an accident where they rolled a bunch of ones, and so the cannons, people running the cannons was two gnome twins and a kinku, and my partner Jess was controlling them, and then there was an explosion and it came to her. She's like, okay, and then the gnomes, and I was like, nope,
they're all
sorry.
dead.
Sorry.
They're all dead.
And they were crushed, let me tell you. So
So sad.
Yeah, it was very sad. But then some of them went out, like there was kind of a crazy, like insane monster character who just like put up on a bunch of explosives and blew himself up with a bunch of guys. But it was so on brand for that character. I was very proud of my players for going there. And then they got sucked down to the bottom of the ocean and had to like go in this place. But that was really it was very complicated in trying to set it up, and I did not know how it was going to go.
Sure.
Because you never do, and it went very well, and they got very creative, and it was super, super fun.
I mean, that sounds epic.
Yeah.
You know, what you were saying about them controlling the waves, and that's a big request amongst people, that like they get magical powers that control parts of the planet.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that if they were controlling those waves, there's other repercussions.
Right.
You know, if you make a wave here, there's other things that are going to feel it.
Definitely.
You know, it's just like the consequences. If someone like Storm was just manhandling the weather whenever she wanted to, making it snow in places that it's not going to, you're going to crash the ecosystem.
Yeah.
You killed this one orc, or whatever, non-evil orc, I'm sorry. You kill this one orc,
I mean, it happens.
and then all the food supply of that country runs out.
Yeah.
Do you put that in your campaigns?
I mean, I do actually.
Oh.
There's a lot of like
Teaching
repercussions
life
for-
lessons.
Like my players all attacked the first thing. There's like goblins attack the town, and they were like, "Yeah, we're fighting goblins." And then when they went out to the goblin village that's now like burnt and destroyed, they like realized that these goblins were being like driven by something much worse and were actually victims, and they all felt bad.
Victim blaming.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh no, they weren't actually bad." I'm like, "No, they weren't. They were forced to do this."
Monsters.
It's amazing.
Yeah, stuff like that happens.
Every creature's misunderstood.
Inter nation trade stopped, and that has caused problems. Yeah.
I mean, listen, Jaws didn't know that business was booming in this town.
That's
Right,
it,
yeah.
right?
Jaws was just trying to eat.
He didn't
feed
know it
his
was a
family.
4th of July weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just doing his
He
thing.
was just bruising it up.
All right, Adam, what about you? What was a big battle you remember?
Well, as any of the people that watch the Dungeon Run, every major battle so far, I've almost or did die in. So I'm not gonna pull any of the battles from the
But that
Dungeon
just
Run.
means you're good at it.
Oh, it does it, or
You're
am I?
good at dying.
Challenge rating's high. It's
Yeah,
good.
challenge
That's
rating is
good.
definitely high.
It's good.
But one of my favorite so far has been this campaign, this battle within the campaign where we had an undead, like visually undead, so it looked like a skeleton with a top hat and a monocle,
Dope.
riding on
Classic.
exactly riding on a carriage. Pulled by the souls of the undead
Dope.
that was trying to destroy this Ursaka bear village, and we had to stop it. And it was not going great for us, and we were getting. I mean, we do it okay, but it kept like it didn't appear we were doing any damage. You know.
Wait
and-
a second. You felt that your group was going to do better than the village of well-thinking bears? Oh, we got to step in.
Well, the thing is,
Save these poor, intelligent, giant bears.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like the bears were behind us in terms of progress, so they didn't have a lot of magic.
Oh,
they
yeah.
had some gods that were on their side.
They
but,
only
like,
have massive brute strength, which rival yours.
that does not help
Time
against the
hundreds.
incorporeal spirit. So what ended up happening is that my god ended up stepping up and like all
God of progress.
Yep, exact. God of Progress was like, we can't have all these souls stay in a plane where they're not being useful. So I pulled out that's how he thinks. He's like, well, if that's the case, then they're not being reborn into a more efficient, service the planet type of mentality. So he sucked all the souls that were driving the carriage into this magical mirror I have, which is kind of like my communication device with him. And then the undead guy kind of fell off his carriage and was like, uh-oh. I gotta.
Nice.
And then, my god attacked him using the mirror, at which point the undead guy was like, I'm out of here! And he just booked it.
Can we talk about your God of progress for a
Sure,
second?
I'd love
Can we-
to.
Can we unpack that?
I would love to. Lumbra.
That you live in United States, and there's a God that demands you're constantly working and improving things? That doesn't seem strange to you?
Now, see, here's one of the characters in the game has the same problem. Our cleric, Saint, is just like, well, wait, does that mean, like, you don't think these bears should be here? Like they're still kind of in like a tribal setting. Does that mean you like want to pave over their forest and make a bunch of high rises? And I'm like, well, no.
But that's progress.
It is a form of progress.
Your God doesn't believe in work-life balance.
You're probably not wrong there.
Is he 1950s or is he more modern?
Well, no, it's like if you think about it like this: if there is a dead, if there's a dead tree, right, and the tree is just dead, and it's not doing anything, it's progress,
though, right? Because it's like a house for a bunch of bugs.
Well, that's just it, though. By taking that and reutilizing it for a new purpose, that is a form of progress. But if you were sitting there and looking at, a carcass on the ground has more use than just being a carcass on the ground. It can be used to further a society, to better animal life, plant life, anything around it. And that is one of the visions that my God has. It's not just...
Can I interlude on that for a second?
Please, God.
You think that a carcass on the ground or the tree rotting is not helping at all?
No, I do
Or it could be more helpful than turning into soil and making food and continuing the circle of life.
I'm not saying that it's...
That if we plucked it out and made it into cement and was a building that no one could eat.
That's my point, though, God, is this, we're not looking to pluck it out and make it into a cement foundation. We're actually looking to encourage it into the next phase of, like, helping the earth, helping the plants. Helping
so it's like a compost bin.
Exactly. You know?
Yes.
That's a form of progress. It's like it's progression. If instead you fight to try and keep that tree alive when it is clearly dead, you're prohibiting progress. You're wasting resources to do that. And that's not conductive. I mean, that's not conducive to an evolving society.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me all the time why I keep you guys around.
I know, right?
I don't have a real answer.
Imagine what you could do if you just said, nope, humans are done.
Well, the planet would take on a cooler shape, I'll tell you that.
Like a square?
No, it would just be, different. I'd be able to grow different vegetation. I'd be able to try out new creatures that you wouldn't kill immediately.
That's true.
I'd be able to try seeing what it was like with a different creature on the top of the food chain.
Imagine if we just saw a brand new animal that no one ever seen before, just like in Los Angeles, suddenly
Go in a
there was
lab.
a new thing. Yeah. That would be very scary.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. You guys are afraid to lose that number one position. I mean, I get it, but it's very real. Boom. All right, so... Other question for you. Let's say there's someone that's out there that's listening to this and they go, you know what? I want some of that. I want some of that sweet D&D action. I love all the things you're saying. I want to hang with my friends. What does somebody need to get started besides friends, I guess?
Yeah, at least one other person.
At least, okay, so just
you can
one.
Do a one-on-one.
The bar is low. Find one other person.
Which is very easy to do because there's so many communities on the internet. Like, I mean, I noticed just in your chat right here, God, people are like, we should get a game going. And
get a game going. That'd be fun.
But yeah, I think all you really need is community and the ability to say yes to the other people in your group, and like the story will create itself.
But you got to get a book. You got to get you got to get a set of dice.
It's true. You need a paper. You need a pencil. But I know people that do it without. I know people who just sit around and create stories and like take their characters on their own adventures.
But do you have to map out a campaign, or can you just start, get a group of people together and just make it up as you go?
I mean, you could. All with 5e D&D, they released all the base stuff for free before that even came out. So all the base rules are available to everyone. And then you can use those resources. There's so much free resources.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Like, I like minis. I like playing with minis. I like a battle map, and I like terrain and stuff because that's fun. You don't need any of that. I found that people play with Lego minis too, just Lego figures, just dice. But to represent space, I think it's easy to track your battle by having something on the table. Yeah. Some people only play Theater of the Mind, though.
Right. And the beautiful thing, again, going back to the internet, is you got websites like D&D Beyond and Roll20, which is right there. You can build a character for free.
That's cool.
Yeah, and you get to, and it helps you with all the math and all the technical ends of Dungeons and Dragons. And then you use Roll20 to create battle mats and miniatures that you can move around and do the combat combat
Just play on the
with.
computer.
Yeah. And again, like it's very easy for like someone in Florida and then someone in Belgium and someone in South Africa to all play at the same time and like have that sense of community that we were talking about earlier.
That's dynamite.
Yeah, it's really accessible.
All right, so D&D Beyond, Roll20, put those in. Somebody do that hashtag Discord thing and throw those in there. Join the Discord, I think.
Yep.
All right, so 2 of you are on 2 very fun shows.
Thank you.
They're very different shows with as I'm getting different audiences. What's next in each of your worlds? What's happening in Fables of Red Fusion? What's happening in the Dungeon Run?
Yeah, Fables right now, we're shooting season 3.
Wow.
So that'll be coming out soon. Tomorrow, our Fur Haven one-shot comes out, which is, they approached us, which was very nice of them, and sent us the rules. And my player, Allie, she's the dungeon master for it. I forget what that goes, like Animal Master or whatever. It's basically like kind of like Redwall. It's a toned-down rule set. It's simplified for kids. And we all
The
play...
Fur Haven one?
For Haven, yeah, we all play little like animal kids. I play a little skunk kid, and we are going on a little adventure, and it's really really fun and sweet. And that comes out tomorrow. We did a Star Wars game that's going to be coming out soon, and then Campaign 3 is going to be starting, I believe, in the next month or 2.
Awesome.
Very excited.
Nice.
All right, so the Star Wars one, are you using known characters? Are you kind of riffing off, making new stuff?
No, it's a set in the dark time, so the Empire has taken over, but the rebellion hasn't really kicked off. So if you like Andor and you like lower, like there aren't any Jedi, I let them have the opportunity, but they were like, no, we'll just play regular folks. And they go on a
No
heist.
wizards.
Yeah, no wizards. They go on a heist of an old Clone Wars like battle station to get some stuff and have to deal with crime cartels
Nice.
and the Empire and all sorts of stuff that's messing around. And it's just a good, fun, like kind of pulpy time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pulpy?
Yeah, Star Wars is very pulpy.
What does that mean? Like there's leftover residue in your liquid?
Yeah. Pulpy comes from a form of literature that was printed on cheap paper, so it was pulp paper.
Pulp paper.
But it's just like it's a genre for like adventure serial style storytelling.
Okay.
Star Wars is pulp. There you go. Again.
Star Wars exists on old pieces of parchment, is what I've
There
gathered
you
from
go.
that. All right, what's happening in the Dungeon Run?
So the Dungeon Run, we film live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m.
Did you get that? Wednesday nights at 6.
And you can check us out. We got a Twitch channel. We got a great Discord community. We got social media handles, all thedungeonrun.com. And what's great about our game is the players actually affect the game. Like you can live in real time buy people advantages to roll again,
Whoa.
disadvantages so they get a
That's
negative to their
fun.
roll. You can.
Nice.
There's something that we have in place called Cosmic and Nature, cards of Cosmos and cards of Nature, where if you donate towards the card, like a bank of resources, once you get enough, the card goes off. And like the most recent one that just happened screwed all of us in our current fight in the middle of a labyrinth against these crazy giant oh my gosh, what are they called? Like there's sphinxes that are ripping us asunder. And
asunder is a good word.
it's a great word. And we're actually fighting Gamora, which is a demigod of sorts that is not wanting us to win. So if you guys want to help us out and not let Cristobal die again,
For the third time.
Yeah, we do fan engagement like that with fan-created characters.
Nice.
NPCs, and we also do there's different tiers. One is like NPCs destined to die. So it's kind of like, I have to find a creative way to kill this
That's
person
amazing.
that one of the fans created. And that's always very fun to go through. And that's actually very helpful because sometimes you're like, okay, I'm in a town. There's all these people in this town. What NPCs are available right now? We also have our Discord too for Fables of Refuge too. When the big community there, people really love being in there. It's great.
Yeah.
Now I got a question. Now, I all of this D&D stuff has sounded very positive so far. A lot of therapy, good community,
Sure.
lots of connection. Why are you sacrificing goats and the devil? Where does the worship of all things evil come into play? Let's get into the hard-hitting part of the interview?
I'd say that the people that are often associated with stuff that is not mainstream are misappropriately labeled as people who sacrifice goats and draw pentagrams and worship Satan, who isn't real,
I mean,
so it
we
doesn't
also do
matter.
that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we do that.
We
but
do that.
we do that because it helps us tell a grander story, not because we're trying to raise devils and demons.
Yeah.
I mean, I am also.
Oh, well, I mean, that's your personal life choice. That's not
not
all
D&D.
Dungeons and Dragons
Yeah,
players.
That's just what I'm doing.
Well, I mean, this is a big deal because D&D is starting to come back.
Mm-hmm.
It's
popular than
getting
it's ever been.
more popular
Yeah?
than it's ever been. What do you want for the future of D&D?
Have you been playing the 1D&D stuff at all?
No, not yet.
We've played around with some of the
Ooh,
new
the one.
rules. So 1D&D is the next edition.
Right.
Is this like Neo?
Yep, it is the one. It'll be dodging bullets.
Wow.
They're letting the players play test it, so they're putting out for everybody to test new rules.
Nice.
So we've been playing around with some of those. They're very fun. They're again just streamlining everything. I don't know. There's so much popularity for D&D. I more encourage people to look at different systems.
Sure.
Like look at what's it, Wildlands. Look at Wanderhome. Look at even the old or the Edge of the Empire, Edge of the Galaxy, like the official Star Wars one. It's like has storytelling dice.
Sure.
So it's a whole different system. The old age system for like Dragon Age and Fantasy Age. That stuff's all very interesting and different. So like D&D is great and super easy to get to. But if you want to try something that's meant for other things. Because D&D, we kind of force the storytelling onto it.
Sure.
And it works really well. And we figured out how to make that work. But if you boil it down, it's about rolling dice to see if a sword can hit a guy. Like, it's very much focused on tabletop combat because it grew out of wargaming.
Sure.
And versus, like, a game that's explicitly designed for storytelling and adventure in storytelling, like Wanderhome's that way, where it's all about what's happening at the table. And it's a lot more of a cozy game, so there's not as much, like, violence. But it's designed for storytelling versus a game that we're using to tell storytelling. So like that stuff's all really cool.
Right.
So those are things that are happening. Is there something that you like wish for the future? Like, do you want D&D to be taught in schools? Do you?
I mean, there are D&D
Are there
clubs. I
bigger
think that's
D&D
awesome.
shows? Yeah.
I don't know if I want to show. I mean, there's more and more always. Like Critical Role has their cartoon. It's great. The D&D movie's coming out, which could be great, but we remember the old D&D movies.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it to be very good.
So
Chris Pine is a bard.
Right.
Chris Pine is a bard. We know that.
Bard of bandits
The
with a plan.
tiefling is a white girl with horns.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. I mean, I think what I want is it to continue to grow in acceptance, and because of its inclusionary ability. Like, if you look at other massive produced stuff, be it like the National Football League or which is nothing against football players, but like you have to be a very specific type of person to be able to play professional football.
Yeah.
Anyone can play D&D. Will some people be better at it than others? Sure, but anyone can still play.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that inclusionary. You know, it's kind of, I think one of the reasons that theater kids often get into D&D is because they come from like high school theater, where it's like anybody can stand in the background of Oklahoma and hang out and sing those songs about, So I want that to continue to grow in acceptance. Yeah, that's the big thing for me.
Yeah, it's that weird. Like I mean, I've been in it for so long now. It feels weird when people are so freaked out by it.
Right.
And you're like, it's just a game, y'all. Like, it's really great.
It's also like.
Do you have a
builds
story when someone was
emotional
freaked
tools.
out?
I have a guy I work out with on a regular basis who loves to bust my chops about playing D&D, and I go, yeah, but you play fantasy football, right? Like, what is the difference between fantasy football and D&D? And he's like,
You're
no,
at least
it's
involved in your
You're
fantasy.
more of a statistics nerd than the D&D
I could
players
ever
are.
be. Yeah.
That's funny because he's having a fantasy he's not even a part of.
Exactly. He's
like,
not even
that's
contributing.
weird.
Yeah.
Emotional tools, just building like how to, if you don't know how to talk to people, but you start playing D&D, you can like learn how to build rapport, learn how to engage, grow some confidence.
It becomes a very like tangible, interactive, non-digital real interaction, especially when you look at games like for instance, online gaming with things like Call of Duty, right? Where like it's a lot of fun, but you're not really interacting with someone in a true sense. You're doing it in like a instant or a like
unless you go in with your friends already to
Right.
play on a team,
right.
but
And you're not looking on 9 times out of 10. Those games are like about mass combat,
Yeah.
like team versus team situations.
Yeah.
You're not looking to grow anything. You're not looking to build anything or form.
Yeah.
You're just looking to shoot the other guy faster than the other guy shoots you. And it's
Yeah.
like,
All right, ready. I got a $1 million idea for you.
please God.
Either one of you can take this, make as much money because I don't really care.
okay.
D&D dating app.
Ooh.
Got your stats on there.
That's fun.
You can connect and start a game
I feel like
virtually.
it would have to be. You can't give yourself your own stats.
Ooh, that'd be
Well, how about this?
fun. There
Right.
you go.
Your stats improve with your encounters.
Ooh, also
so
good.
people, give you some points or experience or
More
whatever.
experience, the better the date, the more XP you get.
I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, and you can label yourself as like I'm a barbarian, and then you go in there and this is like, are you a barbarian? No, you're more of a
Yeah.
like that's a lot of fun. That's a really great idea.
listen, write it down. Go make it with your friends.
God, you're an entity of so many ideas.
Well, that's what I'm here for. I create stuff. That's pretty much my own job. Clearly I don't get involved in things. Oh, so in our last section, does anybody out there have any questions for us? I mean, I know you guys you've all been asking us questions as we go. I'll give you a little bit of a window, or I'll wrap it
Or a
up,
door.
or the world will end.
Oh,
No.
it's aggressive. God can be aggressive.
It is such like D&D is so good for a creative tool, like
Yep.
to just like have fun. But like even when I was in high school, I was playing a fighter, and one day I was just like saying I was from the moon, that my character was from the moon, and my best friend Thomas was playing a bard. So every time I'd be like, "Hey, I'm Terrage, I'm from the moon," and they'd be like, "He's from the moon." But every time I said I'm from the moon, the bard would say, "He's from the moon," and just like reinforce it. And my dungeon master was just like, what is happening? And it was just so fun. And that was just something that happened organically.
Yeah.
And just like having a nice time of like playing in the attic at my buddy's house, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, we got a question. This is from the Fail Waffle. I love your name. I would like to know if they could describe D&D in 3 adjectives.
Ooh.
What it means to them. What would they be? 3 adjectives for D&D.
Side note, is a fail waffle a pancake? It's flat? Doesn't have
Fail Waffle is an amazing D&D watcher, streamer, and player. That's how I describe Fail Waffle.
as an individual. I was thinking just the concept.
Oh, the concept of Fail Waffle. That's
I
true.
think It's
Yeah.
a pancake.
It could be just runny dough or runny
Yeah,
batter.
and like it turned off halfway through.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a good
okay, I
point.
see. D&D in 3 words.
Adjectives.
Adjectives. Okay.
Adjectives.
Let me try.
Describe a noun.
Okay. I'm going to say healing, chaotic, and communal. Those are the 3 I'm going to use.
Pretty good.
Social, fun, and creative.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good ones.
Yeah.
You know what? It's funny. I actually, whenever I'm around people, you guys love putting things in lists, or you love making acronyms, or sort of solidifying stuff into like 3 words like this. It's a
Parse
real,
it down.
Yeah, parse it down so it's easy to understand. The Earth is round. How's that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Even though it's an obloid sphere.
You don't,
Right.
Don't
Right. You know what?
I didn't know.
No,
I'm saying
thank
it's
you.
What I'm saying is going from obloid
You're
down to
you're
the Earth is
actually
round.
it is. That's actually more accurate, but I never use those words because way over their heads.
Yeah.
Sure.
99% of the time. All right, boys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I am giving the God endorsement, if that means anything, to D&D. Go out there, start a game. If you haven't done it before, I mean, what do you got to lose? You go on an adventure that you die from, but you don't really die. Go be the main character of your own story. Yeah. Any last words from you, either of you? Any last plugs? Oh, where can we find you on your socials if you want to put those out there?
Sure. You can find me at YouAreJester on Instagram, and I am at Cristobal de la Cruz on TikTok, where I like to post all of my Cristobal-based adventures.
Go check those out. Yeah.
I'm at Jarret Sullivan pretty much everywhere. You can always look for the Dapper DM as well, and then also check out Fables of Refuge. That's on there, hours and hours and hours for you to watch.
And I'll put those the links to their shows in the chat again. Thank you all so much for joining. Zach will be back next week, and go join our Discord, which Zach told me how to do this. Hold on a second. I'm the ultimate old man, and I'm learning. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
God.
Yeah, thanks, God.